Hi, I'm Jeff Strong. I'm creator of Rhythmic Entrainment Intervention, and today I want to talk about how I approach sleep. I have a new sleep program out that I created for Sounds True, publisher. And what I'm trying to do is take fast, complex drumming to help someone fall asleep and ultimately stay asleep. And a lot of people ask me how I do that. How am I approaching it? What am I playing? And how is this different than other forms of relaxation to help people fall asleep? Well, first of all, the difference is that I'm using drums and I'm playing very quickly. Generally, one of my sleep recordings sounds kind of like this. And that'll go on for maybe 20, 30 minutes. So what am I doing? Why is this helping someone fall asleep? Most people, when they want to fall asleep, they want something soothing, they want something quiet, they want something calm. And when I, talk to people and they say when they choose music, they'll choose something that doesn't have a lot of input to it. It'll be slow and sparse, maybe a single instrument or just a couple instruments, not a lot of movement from note to note. Basic long legato sounds, or they may choose nature sounds. They may choose a rainfall or the ocean and the rhythm of that being soothing to them so they can fall asleep. And that works for a lot of people, and that's a great way to get to sleep. There's nothing wrong with that, but what I'm doing is different in that I'm bringing the brain into a pre-sleep state. So we're using entrainment. Entrainment is the idea that we can synchronize the brain to the drumming rhythms, to the tempo of the drums. And this is kind of like what people are doing with binaural beats or isochronic beats, where you're creating a pulse that is then allowing the brain to synchronize to it, and that will help get the brain to shift into whatever state you're trying to accomplish. A lot of the people that are using binaural beats to help people fall asleep are using very slow tempos. They're using binaural beats that are trying to bring people into the delta state of consciousness, which is technically the sleep state, but it really isn't, because the sleep state is multiple states of consciousness, depending if you're in REM sleep or whatever stage you're in. There are multiple stages of sleep. So I found the best thing to do in order to help someone fall asleep is to get them into pre-sleep state so that they can fall asleep on their own. Because a transition from a wakefulness to sleep often takes a little while. It also is a process. There are certain brain patterns that happen during this process that are unique to each person timing-wise. And so if I were to try and force that through slowing down the drumming or playing at the low end and trying to pull people down into that, it's not going to work very well. So what we do, and what I've done with drumming, is right around the low end of the alpha state of consciousness. The alpha state of consciousness is a wakeful state, but we're relaxed and we're still alert. So we're outwardly directed, our brains are relaxed, very receptive. This is the state we start in when we start transitioning into sleep. And there's some sleep states we're in throughout the night that our brain activity is actually up in alpha. So alpha is what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing at the very low end. As a matter of fact, most of the drumming patterns that I use, tempo-wise, are just below the lowest end of alpha. Alpha is considered a tempo between about 8 beats per second and 13 beats per second. I go just a tiny bit below 8, right around 7.6, 7.8 cycles per second, beats per second, in order to help transition to sleep. I found that's the optimal tempo to use. And I've worked this approach with thousands and thousands of people. I have several sleep programs and sleep CDs out there that have been used for almost 20 years, a couple of them have. So this is something I'm very comfortable with, very familiar with. What you need to do with this is you need to turn on very quietly. And this is what really helps, because if we have it too loud, all of a sudden now it becomes overwhelming to the nervous system. Now it's activating, and it's not going to calm us down. It may bring us into a somewhat relaxed neurological state, but there's going to be enough going on with all that volume that it's going to be a problem. So what we do is help people play it at a quiet enough volume that they don't notice it after a couple minutes. And the other thing we tend to do on my recordings is I add an ambient instrument on. I add another instrument that the intellectual mind and the listener can focus on if they want to, that'll allow them to have the drumming just kind of settle further in the background. Most of the people I work with sleep issues are adults. And adults have been taught to listen to music for the most part. And so we're going to want to listen. We're going to key into it. We're going to see how we feel emotionally to it. And so I add the ambient instrument in there to give that intellectual process a place to go. So the drumming can kind of do its thing with the entrainment in the background. So if you haven't listened to one of my sleep recordings, definitely try BrainShift Radio. It's my streaming music site. You can try it for free. We have tons of sleep tracks on there, lots of sleep music, different ambient tracks, different drumming tracks. All the drumming tracks are going to be right around that 8 beats per second mark. Some of them go a little bit slower to 7, some go up to 8.5, but they're going to be right around 8, 7.5, 8. Somewhere in there. Ambient tracks are going to vary. Those are the things you choose based upon what makes you feel good. So the great thing about BrainShift Radio is you can switch the music out. So if you like a rhythm track, don't like an ambient track, just switch the ambient and you can find one you like and go from there. Otherwise, sleep is very simple for me. Play 7.6, 7.8, up to 8 beats per second for 20 minutes or so. Allow the brain to shift into this alpha state of consciousness and fall asleep. So let me play a little bit of this tempo for you. I don't expect you to fall asleep to it for 2 reasons. Number 1, there's no ambient track. And number 2, I'm not going to play that long. Generally takes, for most people that have never encountered entrainment before, brainwave entrainment before, it can take 12 to 17 minutes the first time you hear it in order for your brain to shift. Each time you listen after that, it can shift a little quicker. But initially, it does take some time for the brain to get used to this kind of stimulus. And so I won't play quite that long. I'll just play a little bit, give you an idea of what this sounds like. But if you're interested in what we can do for sleep, my music for sleep, definitely check out brainshiftradio.com. So here we go.